My name is Frog. I work for Lijiang Studio seasonally every year for a few months. I started studying Dongba around 2013, but my first time in Lijiang or at the studio was around 2011. At that time I was a student and I came to Kunming through a study abroad program because I wanted to learn Chinese. I wanted to learn how to read and write Chinese. I could speak a little. I applied through my school and I went to an art school and I was studying painting at the time, and I was the only student in this group in Kunming who was studying art. So anyways, the way the program worked was that we have cultural and intensive language studies for about 2 months, and then the third month you apply all the language skills that you learned and you choose a location and design your own project and conduct your studies, and then you submit a report at the end. So at the time, since I was filling up a lot of books with my own writing and drawing, and I was taking sketchbook classes and bookmaking classes, and I thought it would be nice if I also learned how to make my own paper so that the entire book is made by me from scratch, from beginning to end. And I knew that some people made paper in Lijiang, but I was not totally sure who. When we traveled through Yunnan with the class, 2 of my old neighbors in Providence, Rhode Island, suggested that, well, they said if you go through Lijiang, you have to check out Lijiang Studio. So I did when we went through Lijiang, and it also turned out that the people who made paper were the Naxi people in or around Lijiang. So that was actually the perfect place for me to choose to stay for my 3rd month and then pursue the paper studies. But then when I did that, I found out, I went to Wu village, a Naxi village in the mountains, and I found out that it was the wrong season to make paper, and only Dongba priests made paper for Dongba scripts. So I started to think this is kind of interesting. I was curious about what kind of plants made the paper and how the paper was made, and then how they become these scripts and what are the scripts used for. So instead of learning paper, the Dongbas and Wumu showed me how to make pigments out of rocks and roots and certain plants. They have 3 different ways to make white. And then for the report, I changed my project to, I was questioning what is the relationship between contemporary art and Chinese farmers. So that's why I thought Lijiang Studio was interesting, because that is part of their mission statement as a studio and artist residency. But it's such a big question that I was not able to gather enough information to produce the report at the end of 1 month, and I ended up just submitting a report of drawings. That's what I did. And Jay, who was the director of the studio at the time, offered me a job after school ends, and I decided to take this job. So it was through working at Lijiang Studio, starting in 2013, that I would be around the Dongba a lot and studying them and what they do and copying their drawings and scripts. And when I was in Tachung village at He Shudong's house, I kept asking, those few months, I kept asking, have women ever been Dongba or in the past, or what happens if they want to become a Dongba now? And people could not answer this question, or they would not agree on an answer. So I was just very curious, and I kept asking this question in different scenes and in different ways. When I was in Tachung, I was copying He Shudong's scriptures when I asked this question again, and they said, "Oh, you should try it. You're already doing it," because at that moment I was copying one of He Shudong's scripts, and that is exactly what a Dongma student would do. So they said, "You're already doing it, so why don't you just find out, through these actions that you're already taking. And then Jay turned and asked Tashudong, so if Frog wanted to come back next year and study as your apprentice, would you be willing? And he said, okay. So I think I had to... Well, I asked myself if I really wanted to do it in this context, and if it was the right thing to do. And I said, isn't it a problem that I'm not Naxi and I'm American? It's already a transgressive act, right? But maybe it's not my place to embody this action. Well, I think we had many conversations with different people, and a lot of people thought it was still interesting and you should go for it. And that the conversations that these actions will create are valuable in and of itself. The lessons that we could learn from it. And then I also, for personal reasons, I would pray about it and ask if it was the right thing for me to do or the path that I should take. And if it's not my path, then there should be some kind of sign or message or interactions that show me, right? But it seemed like at the time, everyone was really interested and encouraging and supportive, and they really wanted me to do it. So I kind of felt like that was just the thing that I had to do. Regardless of how much I wanted or not wanted to do it. And then it also happened very organically, that it just happened naturally. The next time I went back for work at Lijiang's studio, I would still be around the Dongma, and I would still be curious about things and copying the art that I saw and asking these questions. So really the project is about what does it take to become a Dongma shaman, and what are the steps that you go through, and how it is one Dongma shaman more real or fake than another. The differences between their actions or personal beliefs or integrity. How do you judge these things? And I think I had no idea really how long it would go. I think I just figured I would just keep following it until something stopped me. If I stopped coming back. So it's been about 4 or 5 years now, on and off. And I think I've been through a variety of experiences or levels of questioning. Last year, so I applied for a grant through ACC, Asian Cultural Council, and it was my first time applying for a grant, and I was really surprised I got it. But my application was... I was curious about traveling to Mongolia for a while, because even though I am not of Naxi ethnic lineage, I do have some Mongolian ancestry through my father's side. And there's this idea that shamanic work or studies are more effective when you study the specific traditions or in the languages of your ancestors. So if I have ancestry in Mongolia, then I thought maybe it would also be the responsible thing to learn more about it and to see what happens there. For my application, I wrote that I wanted to do a comparative study between Dongma shamanism and Mongolian shamanism. What kind of things are similar or different, especially in dance, song, trance, and consultation, and herbal remedies, and garments. So it was accepted, and then I went in 2016 in the fall. I went for 3 months, and I kept a visual journal, and I tried to meet as many different shamans as possible, because there are different practices amongst different ethnic groups. Well, I thought this was funny that on my first day I was unpacking my bag at the guest house, and the guest house staff were standing at the door, and they were watching me take things out of my bag. And they asked me, "Are you a shaman?" And I was totally shocked, because I had gotten used to the idea of being in Lijiang, where people would always remind me, you can study Dongba and even be an apprentice, but you can never be a Dongba. And I accepted that. It wasn't my goal to become a Dongba. And then in Mongolia, when those people asked me that, I said, no, I'm not a shaman, I'm just a student, I just study. And they did not believe me, and they said, no, we think you're a shaman.